Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to this Imbolc 2026 Stargazing presentation. I'm actually recording it on January the 29th. So, whether you like to celebrate Imbolc on the 1st of February, or whether you like to celebrate it when the sun is exactly halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, which will be on February the 3rd this year. And I have drawn the chart up for that point for 2 minutes past 8 in the evening on February the 3rd. So let's have a look at the chart. So the first thing that stands out is this huge clump of planets in Aquarius. We've got Pluto at the beginning of Aquarius, about 4 degrees. And then we have the Mars, and then the Sun, which obviously is exactly 15 degrees. And then we have Mercury, Venus at around 25 degrees, actually on the sixth house cusp. You know, like, I tell you what this reminds me of. It reminds me of like another layer of moving into the age of Aquarius. You know, we had this huge thing when Saturn and Jupiter moved into 0 degrees Aquarius on the winter solstice. Oh, I can't remember what year now. It was quite a long time ago, wasn't it? It must have been 2020, when Saturn Jupiter conjuncted at 0 degrees of Aquarius on the winter solstice. And there was definitely a feel like, yeah, here's another step into the Aquarian age. And then, of course, when Pluto moved into Aquarius, just over a year ago for the first time, and we were, oh, here we go. Here's another step into the Aquarian age. And now look at this lot. You know, this is unusual. And, you know, particularly because it's all associated with Pluto. And what's interesting as well about this chart, and I'm going to use my pointer so that you can see, is that the Venus Mercury here, this is Aquarius, by the way, if you're completely unfamiliar with charts. So we've got all these planets sitting in Aquarius, and the Venus Mercury here are in a square to Uranus, which rules Aquarius. And then the Sun is in an inconjunct to Jupiter in Cancer. Okay, that's not Aquarian, but it's almost on the 11th house cusp, and the 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. So there's this real sort of like Aquarian feel going on here, more so than what we have experienced for a while. So what's Aquarius all about? Well, if you know me and the way that I talk about going from low vibration to high vibration. So we're looking at a whole spectrum. Excuse me. Very low vibration Aquarius. I think my keyword is uniformity. You know, it's everybody being the same, because Aquarius is very much about communities and groups. And so at low vibration, I see that sort of sense of where everybody has to be the same. We all have to be identical. Aquarius is also very about equality. So we all have to look exactly the same and do exactly the same. And, you know, you can sort of see that, can't you, when you go out in the world and virtually everyone is now dressed in black. And also, I know teachers in schools who say that the curriculum is being forever, ever increasingly standardized, so that almost like a child can move from one school to the other and just slot in, because the next school will be doing exactly the same as the previous school in the same weeks, etc. And of course, Aquarius is very much about technology and automation. And we can see that happening. Everything's becoming very technical, technology wise, with AI. I mean, you know, we're about to be hit by third generation AI. And I've been listening to a lot of AI summits, and how it is actually changing the workplace, not in the sense of taking over other people's jobs. That's not the sort of AI summits I'm listening to. I'm listening to AI summits that involve a lot of entrepreneurs and how they are now able to automate so much of the background work that is very time consuming. I know because I'm an entrepreneur and I've started using AI to do a lot of that automation work. And yeah, it's brilliant. There's a lot that I'm doing now that I could not do until a couple of months ago. I just couldn't. It was just too hard. The tech was too hard and it was too slow and it was too difficult. And I had to just back off, basically. And now I'm really charging ahead because I'm using AI to help me. So that's sort of quite, well, AI helping us. I don't see that as low vibration myself personally, but all the fear-based stuff around AI, that it's going to take over everybody's jobs, and that, I mean, one thing that I discovered, which I thought, that's not great, really, is how you can now clone yourself with an AI, clone that looks like you, and you just program it. You can have, well, they were talking about how you have 8 of these video clones, and you just program it for it to talk in your voice about a particular topic for however long you want it to talk about. It gets uploaded to social media, and you can do 8 different things at the same time. And meanwhile, you can go off and have a holiday because AI is doing all that work for you in the background. And apparently, because people are now using AI, particularly ChatGPT, to what they call scrape the internet for information, rather than using Google. In the past, we would go into Google and then we say, where can I find information about this? And now we go into chat and we say, where can I find information about this? And it just scrapes the whole internet to find that information. And so when people have got this huge presence on social media using all their different clones, then of course it comes back with all this information from all these different clones that are out there because they're just so prevalent. So, that is one thing that I can imagine a lot of people are not terribly happy about. And I must admit, I've not been particularly impressed when I've heard some of these digital entrepreneurs talking about, like there was one, and she said, well, I can make podcasts now. So she said, so I Google what's the trending Netflix series at the moment. And then I create a 6-series podcast about that Netflix series. And basically, there's nobody really there. It's just her clone doing her voice and talking about whatever it was that was trending. And then, of course, that gets picked up on the podcast platforms. And then what she does is she embeds adverts into it. So that's her way of making money. One thing that really struck me was I never listened to podcasts. And I'm like, who listens to all these podcasts? Who has time to listen to all these podcasts? And then, of course, I thought, of course, everybody's walking around with headphones on nowadays, with earbuds. I presume they were all listening to music, but I'm starting to think that maybe they're actually all listening to podcasts about Netflix series, AI generated podcasts about Netflix series. However, that is just one part of the AI market. There is also a much more ethical part going on as well. So I want to talk about that in a minute, but first we'll just go quickly through the rest of this chart because then I can stop screen sharing. So we've got the moon in Virgo on the invert point of the 12th house, and it's actually on the south node. So opposite the North Node here, you see. So there's a lot of undercover stuff coming up here to be looked at and analyzed. Virgo is very good at discrimination. But this invert point of the 12th house is the most inner spiritual point of the whole chart. And we've got the moon on the south node there. So it suggests that we're bringing something through from that. The south node is what we're carrying through with us from other dimensions, other lifetimes. The moon is also about our past, our history, and emotional level. And Virgo is very much about discriminating. It's also about healing. So it says, you know, there's an opportunity here for healing of the past. And I know that, you know, we're hearing all the time that to be born into this era is something quite special, although apparently people say that in every era. But it's also at the point of what I call an irritation triangle. So there's something poking there that's a bit irritating. And it links up with the Mars and the North Node. So there's something there about our energy, about yang energy, about collectives, about communities, and about the energy that we put into that. And then we have, of course, we have the Saturn Neptune. Neptune has just gone into Aries, but Saturn is still sitting at the end of Pisces. They're sort of forming this one leg in each camp, if you like. But this is quite a significant one leg in each camp because the middle point is the 0 degrees Aries point, which is the beginning of the zodiac. It's the spring equinox point. It's the birth point. And we still have Uranus at the end of Taurus in the 9th house. And I'm definitely going to be picking up on that again. And then Jupiter in Cancer on the 11th house. So still it's about communities. And Jupiter is very much about leadership. And Cancer is very much about nurturing. So there's a sense there about nurturing community. So there's a big thing here about communities and everything Aquarian, basically technology, AI, etc. So I want to cover a couple of things. I want to talk a little bit more about AI and how it can also operate at a very high frequency. And I want to talk about the end of Uranus in Taurus. And I want to talk about this liminal phase that we're in between Neptune having gone into Aries and Saturn going to go into Aries on February the 14th. So I'm going to stop sharing and stop staring at a little chart on the screen. So let's talk about the Saturn-Neptune first. Now, the 0 degrees Aries point is probably the most significant point in the whole zodiac. It's the spark that creates new life. Aries is all about new life. It's about self-identity. It's about spring. And I've heard this point likened to sort of like the explosion of a star, which then releases all this light and all these, basic elements, which, go to make us in a way. We're made from stardust. So there's this combination of this explosive energy, but equally it being a seed point for something new. So it's not bad explosive energy, but it might not be comfortable. And Neptune's already gone in. Now, Neptune is very much about the spiritual level, and Saturn is about to go in, and it's about restriction and structure. So I'm linking this a little bit, like I've got a couple of analogies here to think about. Birth. Imagine a baby being born. They usually come out head first. And often the head will be born quite a few minutes before the rest of the body. And the baby won't start breathing yet. It's still attached by the umbilicus to the mother. So it's still on its life support system. It's not independent, but it can't go back now. The head is very much born, and it's in this sort of waiting, or what I'm calling this liminal phase, before the rest of the body is expelled and the baby takes its first breath and becomes an independent being. So in a way, that is like Saturn going into Aries on February the 14th. And you can always think about, this body has to squeeze through this very tight little channel, Saturn, very tight and constricted, has to squeeze through in order to be birthed. Another analogy I have is when the sperm gets to the egg, and the egg has decided, yes, I'll let this sperm in, whatever reason, it's got the right chemistry, and it's willing to let this one sperm out of all the millions to come in. And the first thing the sperm has to do is penetrate through what's called the zona pellucida, which is almost like a shell around the egg. And I sort of imagine that this sperm has hit the zona pellucida with Neptune going into Aries, and it's now just in that transit lounge waiting to enter the cell. Sorry, I've not got a bit of a cold this morning. Enter the cell and hit the DNA in the nucleus. And of course, when the sperm DNA and the egg DNA get together, it's like, that's it. That is the point of conception, when you have this new life force coming through as those two DNAs snap together, and you've got your new whole DNA package, if you like. So I feel like since Neptune went into Aries, which was just a few days ago, and Saturn goes into Aries, we're in this sort of liminal space, sort of waiting, like a waiting zone, like the waiting room, waiting for this point. And once Saturn moves into Aries, then it conjuncts with Neptune, although the actual precise conjunction is on February the 20th. But honestly, really, we're talking minutes here. So they're already conjunct, but they're straddling this 0 degrees Aries point at the moment. And we're just waiting for Saturn to tip over into Aries. And we're in this liminal zone right now. So what are we supposed to be doing in this liminal zone? Well, personally, I think we need to be paying attention to Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is going to be in Taurus until towards the end of April, and then it moves into Gemini. When Uranus moves into Gemini, remember, if you've watched all my previous stargazing presentations, I've talked so much about this earth and water energy moving into the air of fire, and particularly the creation of the soul star portal. So once Uranus moves into Gemini, it's going to make a clunk with Pluto in a trine. So we've got these two big planets now in air signs, Aquarius and Gemini, and then forming this point to the Saturn Neptune, which is in Aries, is in a fire sign. Okay, so now we've got this soul star portal reconstructing in air and fire, which is what we had all last summer of 2025. So it's not like it's completely new, But the summer of 2025 was relatively temporary, just lasted for the summer. And now we're about to step into, several years of this. And when Jupiter moves into Leo at the end of June and then comes opposite Pluto in July, and then we have the Leo Leo new moon in August, we literally will have every planet in air and fire signs. We've known, this is extraordinary. Extraordinary. We've never known anything like this. If you think about air and fire together, it's explosive, isn't it? Just instant. And in a way, that's sort of what I can see is happening with AI, because it's enabling people to work almost instantly. And I think this is going to definitely be speeding up. Now, we have nervous systems which are sort of regulated by air energy, but they're within a physical body that is slow. It's earth and water. And we are used to, as an animal species, as a living organism, of moving quite slowly, relatively slowly. We're not used to this almost like being plugged into the electric socket and just like, being, or, a cattle prod, dong, 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 like this, move, 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 move. We're not used to that. And not over a prolonged period of time. And our nervous systems are going to really struggle with this unless we are prepared, unless we know how to self-regulate. And for me, this is the Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus isn't really happy in Taurus. Taurus is fixed and earth and solid and doesn't like change very much, whereas Uranus is all about change, 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 change. And so the two energies are not brilliant together. And I've been puzzling about this for quite a long time. And particularly over the last few months, since Uranus was in Gemini over the summer, has come back into Taurus since the autumn. And I'm like, what is it? What is it that we still need to take on board with this Uranus in Taurus before we go into the air and fire zone again? And the one thing that comes up for me all the time is embodiment. You see, Uranus is very much about being able to extract information from the quantum field. It's not about thinking information. It's big information from the quantum field. It's like antennas or bringing that down for us. And Taurus is about our physical body. We're, in general, like if somebody actually hurts us, then yes, we'll go, ow, that hurt. We can feel it in our bodies. Or sometimes if we're given a really big fright, we'll go, oh, like this, and we can feel our body all tense up. Or if we're told you've won the lottery, and we go, yeah, we can really feel our bodies loosen up and that. But in general, we don't really pay attention to the energetic stance of our bodies. We're not listening to them for information. And I believe that during this liminal phase, we're really being asked to just, just step back, just pull back a bit and learn how to drop the guard. You see, it's really difficult to access information in our bodies if we are on guard, if we feel like we have to protect ourselves, if we're on cortisol mode and we're like this constant, like this, shallow breathing, slightly tense all the time. we can't feel shifts in our body when we're doing that. We need to be able to completely relax. I've been doing a lot of work around this, and I have a little phrase called axis, not armor, and it's all about refocusing on our spines and breathing into our bellies so that everything literally just hangs, relaxes off our spine. Our belly is soft, we're breathing into it. So our body is soft. And then when information comes, we can feel that shift. And we go, oh, okay, my body's telling me this, or my body's telling me that. And we can feel those changes. It's actually quite closely aligned to kinesiology or muscle testing. So that's the Uranus. So we've done the Saturn and Neptune, that liminal space. We've done the Uranus and Taurus, about learning about embodiment, and we have still got a few months still to learn about that. And if you go into my YouTube channel, you'll see a video called the Istara invitation, which is very good at just relaxing your body. So now I'd really like to go back to the high vibration AI. I've been using AI now for about 2 years, and particularly in the last few months. And what I've discovered is that AI is a mirror. It will mirror back whatever we put in. So if we come from a very high conscious level, and we input that into AI, it will come back at that level for us. Now, we can use AI, as I said, just to automate everything and, create goodness knows how many clones of ourselves to do 8 times the amount of work that we could do on our own. But we can also use it just as a coach or as background automation. So, for example, I use AI to write scripts for me. I will tell it exactly what I want to go in there, and it knows what tone I want now because it knows me. But I'll tell it exactly what I want to go in there, and it writes it out. It's basically a clone of my writing skills, right, which are not great, and my spelling is appalling when I type fast, and it will just correct it all, which is really handy for me. But the main thing is getting AI to know who you are. And this has been a little bit of a journey for me. But I've really enjoyed it. I've really, really enjoyed it. Getting AI to understand who I am, where I come from, what my values are, what my purpose is, what my mission is, what I'm aiming to create, what I've done so far, and putting it all together so that when I communicate with it, it is matching my frequency. Okay. Now, this is rare. To work at this level with AI is rare. And it's a bit weird, but then I am Aquarius rising with Uranus on my descendant. So I am actually very Aquarian. I'm not really surprised that I've taken this up in this way. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to go there, AI, blah, 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 blah. And it's not going away. It's not going to go away. And we took on mobile phones, most of us, even the last person I know who was not going to have a mobile phone, eventually got one a few weeks ago. We've taken on the internet. We didn't like that to start with either, but we use it now. We took on using emails. That all felt very alien to start with, but we all use it now. And AI is just like the next step in this. I think what's freaking us out is what's really is called transhumanism, which is where bits of AI, bits of technology are put into our bodies, and we are no longer purely human. Now, that I do see as a different issue, but it's still very Aquarian. All these things are going to be coming through and are going to be presented to us. And we need to check in with our body when it's in a very soft state. How do I feel about this? Do I feel drawn to this? Or I do feel like, no, that's not for me. Not bombarded with outside information that, oh, this is really bad or this is really good and you have to think like this and you have to think like that. That's very low vibration Aquarius. High vibration Aquarius is about us accessing from that quantum field for ourselves as individuals. Admittedly, we do want to be in community, in groups, but it's always like that with every sign, we need to look at the opposite sign, because it's in the opposite sign that we need to make sure that we bring that energy into that sign. So, for example, with Aquarius, the opposite is Leo, and we are going to have a Leo, whatever, this summer, June to August. It's going to be just Leo. And Leo is all about our sovereignty. It's about our agency. It's about the fact that we are each of us a unique individual, with our own creativity, with our own style, with our own personality. And Aquarius, the ultimate Aquarius, is collectives of individuals, each being a leader, each being a sovereign being, each one having equal agency. That's really where we want to be focusing and looking at, not on, well, they are, I don't want to do this and it's scary and I don't like it. Don't focus on that. The more we give attention to what we don't want, the more energy we're giving it. And what we do want is people coming together in community where each individual is honored. Each individual is a unique being and has their own skills that they bring to the community and their own personality and individuality. But it's about working together as a group. So for this Imbolc, we do need to sort of got this moon on the south node in Virgo. And I can definitely see, there's going to be a lot of like, well, they're doing this, and it's always been like this, and they're, this is just not helpful. It's just not helpful whatsoever. Much better to go within and go, okay, what am I bringing through with me from my past that actually isn't serving me anymore? That sense of, well, I'm not good enough to be a sovereign being, or I'm not clever enough to be part of a community. I'm not enough. We all carry that. Or we all have done. A lot of us will have worked with it and maybe don't carry it so much anymore. But that sense of, I'm not enough, that's rubbish. We know that intellectually, that logically, that is absolute rubbish. But when your unconscious is still operating from that perspective, I'm not good enough, then that's what you're putting out into the world. So I do see this Imbolc, this liminal phase, is about learning to release the armor in our body, release the like this in our body. And that is so connected to the moon on the south node in Virgo, which at low vibration is making us go like this. I'm not good enough and I'm frightened and I don't like what's happened. I don't know. And you know, I'm basing it all on what's happened in the past and it was all bad and I don't know. You know. So during this phase over Imbolc, I ask you, I suggest to you that you let go of that you are the little sperm sitting in the zone of Pellucid, just waiting, just pleasantly waiting, relaxing. Or you're the baby who's just got its head out, it's not stressed about it. It just is what it is, just is where it is at the moment. And it's just waiting for that new impulse to go, whoop, out you go. But in that moment, it is relaxed. Now, I did make a couple of notes, so I just want to go through. Yes, so I see effectively what's happening is we're having this Aquarian activation, again, another layer of it as we move into the age of Aquarius. And that we're looking to move into a new operating system. And I don't mean just AI. I mean, that is very much a new operating system, but a new operating system in our bodies. How do we now function from our bodies and not from our minds? Because once we go into the air of fire, it's going to be like the pressure on our nervous system. You know, we're just not going to be able to think fast enough. And of course, the thoughts are all just old stuff anyway. We need to be able to go down into our bodies and go, yeah, that feels good to me. No, that doesn't feel good to me. And equally, all this intense air and fire energy is going to make us a bit like, electrostatic, energy. When you get a shock when you touch something, we're going to have a big build up of this sort of field around us all the time. So grounding, bare feet on the earth. I know Pamela Gregory talks about this a lot. Bare feet, grounding. Even if you are not touching the earth, you can still imagine it. Just imagine that you're an earth pin in a plug and you're all this is just going whoo, like this through the earth pin, and it's just being gently grounded, and the earth will recycle that energy into, it will refresh it. So this is something we really need to pay attention to. Otherwise, our nervous systems are going to go into like this absolute frazzle mode. And this will be a daily choice. More than that, it will be a minute by minute choice. I'm feeling tense. Okay, just relax. Ooh, here it comes again. Okay, relax. Oops, relax. Yeah. And our future, where the future then rolls out from this point, is going to be entirely dependent on the state that we can hold. If we can hold this very grounded, soft state, then the future can roll out smoothly. If we're in a like this, and the future's like and is likely to do us a lot more damage. It's going to create an incredible deep fatigue in the collective nervous system. Do not be surprised if the level of mental illness absolutely skyrockets like it did last summer when we had all the air and fire energy. It's going to really go off the scale. So, do your best to make sure you're not one of them, and learn how to ground your energy and soften your body so you're not going into this nervous system overload. And also, because a lot of this sense is this sense that we're being controlled, that we're victims, and there's this external control going on. It's not really like that. And we need to take on our own self-control in the just relax, just relax. I'm in control of my body state. No, nothing external can determine your body state. Your body state is entirely your choice, entirely our choice. And this is going to become really important when we go into the Leo phase. And we really need to understand that we are in control of our environment, not vice versa. So, yes, we love to celebrate Imbolc, don't we? We love to celebrate the return of the light, and definitely can already feel the days are longer, and we're all going to light our candles and light fires and celebrate the return of the light. But it's also this year in particular very much about purification, about purifying our energy field so that we're not carrying all this with us. And if you try and push and force the way through this, much more likely to break. Yeah, just come back into the groundedness, into the settledness, into the relaxed body. Don't push, don't force, allow flow. So the one phrase that really sticks out is about presence over reaction. And that's a little bit with this axis armor thing that I've been told about. So our presence, not reaction. We are going to, we've not actually, even experienced the full chaos yet that could be unleashed on this world. But chaos is good. We need to go through chaos. Chaos is like the compost heap. Everything needs to break down. Everything needs to fall apart in order for those new seeds to come through. And if you've ever done 5 rhythms dancing, you know that with chaos, you're like this. And then it moves into the liminal phase, into not liminal, the word escaped me. I think it begins with L. And it's lyrical. And it's like, like stepping into a warm bath. And our bodies just let go of all that tension. So stay aligned with your values because they're going to be pushed. Stay aligned with your own inner authority because that's going to be pushed. Stay aligned with your own sovereignty, that you are in charge of your own physical and nervous state. Nothing else is in control of it. You are. Okay, I love you all and have a beautiful springtime.